the redesign of the currency will help deepen our drive to entrench cashless economy, as it will be complemented by increased minting of our e-naira. This will further rein in the currency outside the banking system into the banking system, thereby making monetary policy more efficacious. Also, in view of the prevailing level of security situation in the country, the CBN is convinced that the incidence of terrorism and kidnapping will be minimized, as access to large volume of money outside the banking system used as source of funds for ransom payments will begin to dry up. Ladies and gentlemen, on the basis of these trends, problems, and facts set out above, and in line with the provisions of Sections 2B, Section 18A, and Section 19, subsection A and B of the CBN Act 2007, the management of the CBN has sought and obtained the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari to redesign, produce, release, and circulate new series of banknotes at 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira levels. In line with this approval, we have finalized arrangements for the new currency to begin circulation from December 15, 2022, after its launch by President Muhammadu Buhari. The new and existing currencies shall remain legal tender and circulate together until January 31, 2023, when the existing currencies shall cease to be legal tender.
We were not consulted. It was an announcement that we heard. And I've seen,
you too, you just saw the press release like every other body.
Part of the reasons that was advocated is that's one of the ways to mop up liquidity to manage inflation. But there are also consequences that we're also looking at. What would the consequences be? There will be some benefits, but there will be some challenges. And I don't know whether the monetary authorities have actually looked very closely as to what the consequences are and then how they can be mitigated. So I still advise that you have that discussion with the monetary authorities, not as the fiscal authority. Yeah. First of all, as a fiscal authority, we were not aware of it. It was an announcement. Secondly, I think that's one of the ways that they're trying to use to manage inflation. But there are consequences that also need to be considered and how to manage those consequences.
All right, welcome back. And yeah, you've seen Mr. Dakpo Oyeomi joining us next. He is the CEO of Center for Law and Business. He is a legal practitioner. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. So, well, ever since then, the president has since put up a statement that, yes, he is backing the CBN on this particular matter, which changes the dynamics, even though this morning quite a number of dailies are still reporting that mixed reactions on the part of business people, experts, concerning all that is playing out. Well, let's get your perspective. Having, well, in addition to the president's statement, how does that play out for you now?
Well, good morning, Chamberlain, and everybody on the channels team. And thank you for inviting me again to one of your programs, one of the very enlightening programs that we have on television in Nigeria today. Coming to the issue at hand, I think the president's statement, on the assumption that that's a correct statement, clears the whole issue on the controversy of whether the CBN had authority to do what it did or not. If we look at the CBN Act, I would think that the CBN acted in accordance with the Act. It had the power to control the currency. It has the power to print. It has the power to distribute and circulate currency of the nation. And the Act actually says the CBN is an independent body. So that was also done in order to give the CBN the ability to maneuver and to be nimble on its feet, to be able to react to situations in the economy as quickly as possible. Bearing in mind that the role of the CBN is to maintain financial stability in the economy and in the nation as regards economics and monetary matters and things like that. So the CBN has independence, it's guaranteed under the CBN Act, and it also has the power to deal with the currency of the nation, the denominations, the printing, the circulation, and all that. Having said that, the president has now given his endorsement. The CBN governor said he did obtain the president's approval as required by the law. In fact, Section 19 of the CBN Act says, after the board has considered all matters, it will be approved by the board, and the CBN governor will then take it to the president for approval. So the assumption is those internal issues of approval by the CBN board has been obtained, after which the CBN governor then sought the approval of the president. And it's now clear that that approval was given, and so the CBN has ostensibly acted in accordance with the powers conferred on it by the CBN Act. So I think that clears the issue.
Do you know, when you talk about, when you speak about the law, letters of the law, the spirit of the law, the intendment of the drafters of the law, does that same principle apply in this case? Because the monetary and fiscal authorities are supposed to be on the same page in the first instance. And now when this played out, won't that rub off negatively on those who may be watching, wondering, we're supposed to be together. So if there's an internal wrangling, doesn't look good, does it?
I agree with you absolutely on that, really. I think in any issue, whether or not one has the powers to do what one wants to do, it's important to consult all stakeholders. On the face of it, the Minister of Finance has told us that the Minister of Finance was not consulted. In my own personal opinion, I think she should be consulted, not for approval, but consultation, because the Minister of Finance is in charge of the spendings of the federal government of Nigeria. And of course, spending, expenditure, and monetary matters are so interrelated. I think the CBN is a strong stakeholder. I mean, the Minister of Finance is a strong stakeholder in this process. And in my own personal opinion will be all stakeholders should be consulted. In fact, I will go to the extent to say that to some extent this matter also borders on money laundering. So I would also say perhaps the money laundering authorities and the NFIU should also be consulted, because we are told that there's a lot of money outside the banking institutions. And perhaps such monies are illegal, and the intention is to mop them up, and those that cannot be brought into the system for one illegal or criminal reason or the other will be rendered illegal and cannot be used in the economy again. So my own personal view is that all stakeholders should be consulted.
You know,
in matters of
that consultation bit, quite a number of people feel differently. While some say that, look, even if they were not on the same page, that they wonder, should the Minister of Finance have said, you know, what she said at that time, telling the whole world that, well, we weren't consulted, while some others thought, look, she was just responding to a query from the National Assembly, and if she had said otherwise, probably other questions might have followed, which she may not have been able to answer.
People have different ways.
Yeah, go ahead.
Different people have different ways of doing things. And I think she was caught unawares and reacted immediately when she saw, when that question was put to her, because it was during a National Assembly meeting with the committee. And then the question was put to her that, oh, this is happening. And her reaction immediately, I think it was a reaction that she had to react right there and then. Again, sometimes maybe she didn't want to create, I really can't speak for her, to be honest with you. People have different ways of doing things. But personally, I also feel that those are two very important key positions in managing the economy of this country. And any disagreement should not be in the public space. I think it should be internally resolved between the parties, and so that they're all on the same page and they're working together for the same objective, because that's the assumption. They're working together for the good of the nation, so they should be on the same page and working along those lines. And then also something that came to my mind. This matter, was it not debated at the Federal Executive Council meeting, or did the CBN governor just go behind everybody's back and straight to the president without it being debated? I don't know. I don't know how government works, but I would have thought that matters of this nature are so important that it's important to get the opinion of other people, even if you have all the authorities to do something. It's always good to hear other people's opinion. You know, they say 2, 3 good heads are better than one, and nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. And then you can take a more informed decision as to how things are going to be done. So coming back to the issue, I think consultation is necessary. We shouldn't see a public spat between government officials, especially at such high levels. They should be able to resolve these things amongst themselves and, you know, keep everybody confident that the nation is in good hands and the ship of the nation has been steered properly. And that would be my own view of the matter.
Okay, so for some people, you know, I do not know if that will be interpreted as a public spat, or as you said, you know, if she was just caught off guard and she just had to say, look, we don't know anything about this, but this is what we think, and we also think you should speak to the CBN concerning that. But in the places where this has been done, oftentimes an element of surprise is usually necessary for it to be a success, or for it to be able to achieve some of its lofty objectives. If you know, curbing corruption, or, you know, trying to also mop up the currency ahead of a crucial general election coming up next year. If that is part of the purpose, I mean, all of these consultations, do you think that the CBN could have afforded it?
Well, I would want to believe that at government levels, they should be able to maintain confidence of natures of this matter. I mean, the CBN cannot be discussing this matter with the Minister of Finance and maybe the money laundering authorities and the NFRU, and it becomes public knowledge. That would be a great disservice to the nation and a great disservice to the CBN. So amongst themselves, I think they should be able to maintain confidentiality. I quite agree as to the element of surprise, but that is for you and I, for the rest of us who are going to be affected, or who the policy is meant to assist in getting a better economy. But amongst themselves, they should be able to maintain confidentiality. You know, so I'm not sure that because of that element of surprise, it should be kept away from everybody. And if that is the instance, then again, it's a great disservice to you and I.
Yeah, because if you talk about, I mean, one of the things you said is that you wonder if this was discussed at FEC, that's the Federal Executive Council. Do not forget that quite a number of them, I mean, well, the members of FEC are political appointees. They belong to political parties. And as much as possible, they want their political party to succeed. So, I mean, that sort of information being given to FEC, for instance, isn't that already, you know, putting politicians on the alert?
Oh, well, yes, of course, in that part of that aspect of it. But I would also want to believe that I'm not so sure that the FEC includes all the political parties. It says it includes the ministers and some of their aides, and those aides are top-level aides. Yes. Again, at that level, I expect some confidentiality. But let's say it's not possible at that level but there could be a one-on-one consultation. And I'm sure in instances like this, in governance, even in the private sector, talk less of the public sector, there are usually smaller caucuses or smaller units, kitchen cabinets, where matters of this nature can be discussed. And then don't forget again that there are very many parastatals and committees and agencies where both the CBN governor and the central bank, the CBN governor and the Minister of Finance are on these committees, and they meet. Very many.
Is it too late in the day? Because if at the end of the day, the CBN does not have to toe to anyone. It has, ultimate independence to decide this, as long as the president gives his approval. Is it too late to, meet with the fiscal authorities to look at what the fiscal implications of this will be and try to mitigate them?
Well, nothing is too late. Again, that's putting it after the matter. It may be that the CBN governor wanted to achieve a fait accompli on this matter, which obviously he has achieved. And then now you begin to consult with every other person that may be other stakeholders, to use that word, to see how these things would affect those other people. But again, if there are certain things that needed to have been tweaked differently on the onset, then perhaps it might be too late. But again, it's done. We've been told that the president has given his approval and has confirmed it. So the matter is done, really.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, the president also did speak about some of what he expects. Those who are hiding money underneath, they will feel it. The CBN governor said the similar narrative. But we'll let our colleagues from Abuja, I beg your pardon, Lagos, also have questions for you. So guys, go ahead.
Well, I can understand the confusion.
I didn't hear you.
Well, if you can hear me now,
I'm sorry.
Sir. Can you hear me?
I didn't hear that comment.
Okay. Can you hear me, though?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Well, there are those who also...
No, I can't hear you anymore.
Oh. Can you hear me now? If you can, because I wanted to ask you...
I can't hear you.
Oh, wow. Well, let's quickly work on that, and then we'll be able to get...
Perhaps there's a network problem.
Okay, perhaps it's just a bit of a delay, but try see if you can catch up. So there are those who hint at a catch-22 situation here. On the one hand, calling for consultations, just as you have said, but then there are those who also feel that perhaps in the process of too many consultations, the main objective could be truncated, in that those who have interests or interested parties could tell them covertly, so to speak, in order for them to get ahead of the policy in such a way that what the policy was intended to, what the action of the CBN was intended to achieve, it would not be able to achieve if the consultations had gone on. I asked that against the background, even though, as you said, it's already done, the president has already spoken about it, but then they're already suggesting an adjustment to the CBN Act in such a way that the CBN doesn't have to be so independent as it is now.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear...
Let's try from here. Yeah. But can you hear me, though? All right, I think he was trying to just talk about some already suggesting that there should be some sort of amendment to the CBN Act such that the CBN doesn't have that exclusive powers. Would you subscribe to that?
No, you see, we have to look at where we're coming from. There was a need to make the CBN governor or make the Central Bank of Nigeria independent. And I mentioned that at the beginning. Because before now, the Central Bank was not independent. It was under the supervision of the Minister of Finance many, many years ago, And there were reasons why that was changed. And one of those reasons was to make the CBN governor be able to react fast if there's a need to do so, perhaps as exemplified in the present situation. And in that independence, he still has to get the president's approval in certain instances. So in my view, I think the present position is fine. It has worked. And, we've seen what has happened. There's a level of independence, and I think there's a reason for that level of independence. Just as Marquez had suggested, this whole matter was intended to catch every one of us by surprise. If that level of independence wasn't there, the CBN would not have been able to do what has been done in these instances. The effect is a different thing, but at least it was able to carry out what they think is in the best interest of the economy. Wow. So I would still maintain that level of independence should be maintained.
Now, about that, intention to catch people by surprise, well, they will have some time to respond to this and go ahead and comply or get your money to the bank and get the new ones. But already, we're getting all sorts of comments from different quarters, including some who are suggesting that, well, you just may have kidnappers begin to demand for dollars. So the surprise element is gone in that regard. So if it was supposed to achieve a certain objective, isn't that being defeated now?
Well, Nigerians are very, very, how will I say it, very, very sharp people, to use that word, and they have reacted in a way that some of them felt was best in this instance. But I still believe that there will still be some attainment of the intended objective. But in terms of the foreign exchange element, I think it has had a negative impact on that, because everybody can see how southwards the foreign exchange rate of exchange has gone. It's really gone haywire within a very short period, because what we are told is that everybody that has money outside the system have changed it into dollars. And so there's a shortage of dollars and the exchange rate has gone haywire, as I said. But one question I would like to ask, why is there so much money outside the banking system? And what is the cause of that? And can that be addressed in a different manner other than this redesigning of the Naira? Because if we don't address what causes that problem, it's just a matter of time it will happen again.
We'll pick up on that
Nigeria is supposed to be a cashless economy.
Yeah, we'll pick up on that.
We'll
pick up on that perspective in just a moment. But preceding that, when you say it's already reflecting on the impact of the Naira to the dollar, can't we consider that as some sort of direct feedback in terms of the impact of this policy, whether it's going to be a good one or not?
Yes, it's a direct impact of that policy. Everybody that has Naira that they do not want to take into the banking system is changing it to dollars. So it's a direct impact of this policy that the exchange rate has gone the way it has gone in the past 1 week. In fact, what I'm told is that you can't even get dollars to buy. If you go to your bank, you want to take money out of your domiciliary account, the banks will keep sending you from one branch to the other, and everybody will say there's no money. The bureau de change don't have, the streets guys don't have. That's the reports that one is getting, that a lot of Naira and a lot of dollars have exchanged hands in the past 1 week since this policy was announced. So that is a direct impact as far as I'm concerned on this policy. Yeah.
Well, let's quickly take this to Lagos first before I take you up on this particular statement, because, it will mean that the fears might not be adding up then. But let's see if Ayo can get his question through once more.
Okay. Thank you, Ayo. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I'm going to yield the floor for this moment.
Okay, so let's try this one more time. And I'd like to take you up on this point you just made about, I imagine a lot of people who have domiciliary accounts, who have their dollars in their account, maybe as a result of work they have done, business, and now they can't access it. I really hope that is not the case, because it will be really sad. But now, seeing that a lot of people are trying to convert their naira to the dollar on the back of this recent announcement, do you think that speaks to the attitude then of Nigerians, unlike the policy or the effectiveness or otherwise of this policy? Do you think it speaks to the general attitude of Nigerians to the currency, and essentially how their attitude might then pull down this policy, whether it was good or not?
I'm sorry, there's still a problem here. I can't seem to hear the questions from your Lagos studio.
Oh dear.
I know I was
Okay, let's try this then. Well, Kayode was asking about, with regards to your last response, he was asking about whether that was not more about the attitude of Nigerians rather than perhaps maybe the quality of our currency. Did you catch that?
Yes, I caught that. Whether it's the attitude of Nigerians and the quality of our currency. That's the question. Yeah.
Yes, I think something along the lines of, I hope I'm phrasing this right, but he was saying that, the fact that there is a scramble for dollars, isn't that more about our attitude rather than, say the actual value of our currency?
Well, you see, how will I put it now? The currency has to be used by Nigerians, by people, and they react to economic policies, to economic conditions, to demand and supply, and all of those other things that impact on the economy. And so this policy, their view is that, like I said, for those who have a lot of naira outside the system, they are the ones who are trying to change it into dollars. I'm sure those of us who don't have such money outside the system are not bothered by this policy. In fact, I don't think it affects us either way, because most of us use electronic banking systems and so hardly carry any cash around. For those who have that amount of money and they think that they need to change it, that's what has happened. And it's the people who use money, the way they use it, dictated by the demands of economic situations, that will impact the currency. And that's what has happened in this instance. So if you say it's the attitude of Nigerians, perhaps, but that attitude is dictated by economic considerations and to do what they think is in the best interest for themselves.
Yeah, almost every economy will always have money outside of its system. I'm sure certainly not all of the dollars that is printed in the United States, stays in the United States. But if you look at how much naira the CBN says is out of its system, 80% of monies printed by the CBN is outside of its vaults. It's certainly something to be worried about. And for those who say that this was, maybe this was hurriedly thought of, what other system do you think the CBN could have come up with to be able to mop up 80% of its funds outside of bank vaults?
Okay, I agree with you absolutely that the level of money outside the system is just way too much. 80% is large. But you recall a few minutes ago, I asked a question. How did that money get outside the system? We've been told for the past 10 years, if not more, promoting a cashless economy, and quite a number of people have adopted that cashless. Everybody has an ATM. There's what I would call a POS economy in the markets. You go, you need cash. There are people holding POSs that will give you cash in exchange for the naira. In exchange for cash, you give them your card, they will deduct the money, and they'll give you cash. Of course, there's a discount or a premium, depending on how you want to call it. So I want to believe that that system is working. It's working in the market. It's working everywhere. But still, there's so much money outside the system. How has that arisen? And I think that should be tackled. And I may dare say, if I'm not wrong, that government itself, or government officials, or people, or so, it is said that they do conduct quite a number of businesses in cash. So on one hand, we're being told that it should be a cashless economy. On the other hand, transactions are being conducted in cash, and payments and things like that. If everybody has kept to the banking system, there are the mobile banks as well, the smaller telecoms mobile banks that are also trying to assist in this matter, so that places where banks cannot reach. I think that should be encouraged, that there's as minimum transactions in cash as possible. And I don't think it's the market woman, the people doing their businesses honestly, that have this money outside the system. I don't think so. If you look at it, the average market woman is not going to be buying, it's not the one mopping up all the dollars in the market, in the economy. They're not the ones building all that trillion naira outside the banking system. It's some other people, I would probably say privileged people, who are holding that money. How has that come into the system?
So
and I think that should be addressed.
If we're to go with what you've already said, the fact that dollars are becoming scarce, and a lot of naira is now chasing dollars, and even the BDCs are very reluctant to give out whatever few dollars they have left. Do you think that then, if this was actually to call out black money, if this policy of the central bank was to ensure that, a lot of black money is out of circulation, do you think then that it could be a success, given the fact that, there's very few dollars left within the system, or what we're being made to, believe now with the scarcity of dollars?
Well, the fact that it has put pressure on the exchange rates, I'm not sure that's a good thing. Even the average market woman, if you go to the market, and she will tell you, oh, price of dollar has changed between last week and now, and so my prices have to change. It has a very strong inflationary tendency of the economy. Everybody blames the foreign exchange for everything. Everybody, the foreign exchange has changed and all that, so prices must go up. And of course, it's inflationary. Prices are going up. This is a very dependent, import-dependent economy that needs to be changed. Even the price of PMS, crude on the international market, and all those things will be affected. So I'm not so sure. For the fact that it's inflationary and strongly inflationary, I don't think that's, at least in the short term. Perhaps in the long term, there might be other measures that the CBN is going to be rolling out to deal with this. I don't know. But in the immediate term, where we are now, there's going to be a lot of inflationary tendencies as we see it. And, I think something needs to be done about that. I don't quarrel with that policy in itself, if there's really a strong need for the policy, but the effect should have been anticipated and managed. And and then I keep asking the question, how do we get that a large amount of money outside the banking system? If that is not addressed, whatever loophole is allowing for that, if it's not addressed, it's just a matter of time that amount of money will be back in the system.
Well, you
rather
heard the
outside
president.
the system.
You heard the
Yes.
president and what he had to say, what his thoughts are about those who have monies buried in the ground and how that will give them the biggest headache. Do you share his sentiments or do you share his thoughts?
Well, that's the argument of the central bank, and I'm sure that's the basis upon which the approval was obtained. So it's an arguable position, and that's the whole intention, that monies buried under the ground should either be rendered useless or it will be brought into the system. And when it is brought into the system, it will expose those who have the money, which is why in my earlier statement, or when we started, I said this is also a money laundering issue. And as such, those money laundering concentrations need to be looked at. Perhaps there's a need to tweak the policies and the law on money laundering and the NFIU and the instruments and measurements used for doing that. At the moment, the banks report these things, oh, somebody has brought so much amount of money and all that. But perhaps technology should be used, in such a way that it's captured easily. And then, if I may say so, I think with this issue of cashless economy and all that, I will probably be advocating that we should concentrate more on the lower denominations of the Naira. I think the higher denominations, the 1,000 Naira, also has an inflationary tendency in the economy. And so even if it's not totally eradicated, I think the volume of the 1,000 Naira should be reduced.
As we wrap up now, I just want to quickly ask you whether you think that these agencies whom you've mentioned, the NFIU, the EFCC, do you think that they have sufficient capacity to be able to monitor as people will try to, maybe return monies that have been outside of the system to the banks?
Well, I hope they do. That's the whole idea. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And they should do so. At the moment, if they had done it properly, I don't think we should have found ourselves in this situation. But now is a challenge for that. That, look, this is something that needs to be done for the Nigerian economy to get onto a better footing. There's too much money outside the system, and that money is chasing foreign exchange here and there. It's chasing a lot of goods and services and paying premium, ready to pay premium for it because it's outside the system, and they need to use the money. Like I said, it's money laundering. So the NFIU, the money laundering bodies should step up their game, along with the banks.
All right, Mr. Dapo,
you need the cooperation of the banks. All of these things can happen.
Yeah, we need to go, even though there are several scenarios where many will say, no one who has all that stash of money will just go and walk into a trap. They'll just, because CBN, we also expect that those authorities should have done all the scenario planning, knowing that these are the likely things that will be done by all of these persons. But we'll wait and see. Maybe they've got some plans that they don't want to expose to everybody yet. So we'll keep watching and see how all of this play out. But we do thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, we will be back.
I wish the Nigerian economy a lot of good luck.
All right, we all
Thanks,
hope so too.
Thanks,
all right, thank you. We're back in a moment. Join us again.